Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we have one of our longer process videos for you, where we're going to be making a complex and intricately designed piece, and we'll be going over all the steps involved in making our final product. This should be a fun one, so let's go ahead and get to the hot shop and we can start to set the studio up, and we'll go ahead and get started. So for anybody who doesn't know, my name's Connor. I'm a glassblower from Florida, and about 80% of the year down here in the south it's pretty hot, so I like to get here early in the morning when it's nice and cool to set up the studio. So we go ahead and light our reheating furnace, our glory hole right here, and then I'm going to take these big chunks of color and we need to kind of preheat them to about 1,000 degrees. So I'm going to place one in this oven, and then I have a second oven that I'm going to put the other one in, and we're going to turn them both on, and over about an hour we need to let all this stuff kind of heat up. So the glory hole will take about an hour to get hot, all of these will take about an hour to get hot. Then I also need to turn on a annealer, which is a kiln for us to load all of the glass in when it's done. So we're going to grab some tools, we'll place them on our bench. We can move the studio around a little bit so that we can have everything kind of ergonomically efficient for us to make what we're going to be making today. So this metal marburing table tends to get really rusty because it's so humid down here. It doesn't normally, even if you're not in the south, but we spray it down with the alcohol to get rid of all that rust. We're going to set some pipes up and begin to preheat them. We want the tips of the pipes to be pretty hot so we can gather glass on top of them and the glass stays nice and warm instead of kind of cooling down because of the cold pipe. So we'll go ahead and turn this on so they can start to heat up. And then we're going to start to prep some of our tools. So I'm going to take this tool called the jacks, and we're going to heat the blades up, and we're actually going to run them through some beeswax. We coat this tool in particular, in beeswax so that it can glide across the glass so it doesn't scrape it or scratch it. We're going to be doing a process called pulling cane today, so I have these little wooden ladders that I'm going to lay across the studio. They're basically so that when we stretch the glass in the process of pulling cane, we can lay it across the wood and it won't get any like scuffs on it or burn marks or anything from the dirty floor. And then I also have two different torches we're going to be using today. I've got my hot torch and my fluffy torch, so we're going to go ahead and set those up as well. And now that the studio is all set up and everything's nice and warm for us, we can start our process. So we're going to be doing what we call a stuff cup today. So I'm going to pull some cane first. We're going to take that big chunk of white that my brother Luke has just picked up on his little punty rod right here, and we're actually going to stretch it across the studio. Cane is a more advanced kind of way to apply color in glass, so it takes a long time to learn how to really pull cane, the correct diameter and things like that, but essentially we're going to take that white, cover it in some layers of clear, and then we'll stretch it so we have these long rods of white glass. After we have those, we can then use them to create different color patterns. So today, we're going to do some twisty cane. So not only are we going to pull this cane really long, we're going to break it up again into smaller segments, and then we'll actually pull it again and twist it this time. So we have these really long striations and these kind of winding lines. Glassblowing is a long process, no matter what you're making. For me personally, I'm a visual learner. A lot of the ways I learn is just by seeing. It's hard for me to imagine these kind of things. So, you'll see all of this kind of unfold as we get further and further into the video, but I know I'm going to be talking about a lot of kind of conceptual things. So just stick with me, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes, sirree.
So this color that I have on the end of this pipe is called Duro. It's a very stiff white color. Usually whites and brighter colors, they reflect light instead of absorbing them, or they absorb them at a slower rate. So this white is extremely stiff. It's made to be very stiff. So we attached it directly to a piece of metal right here. You saw us do that little transfer right there. And now we're going to add a clear layer of glass on top of it. We'll be able to start shaping it up, and then we'll be able to pull our cane. This part of the process is all about knowing how hot the glass is, and a lot of people ask me, like, how do you know when it's hot enough, because especially opaque glass is really hard to tell how hot it is. You can't really see it changing colors and things like that. So it's all about the movement, it's all about how it reacts on the pipe, and it's basically kind of like an eye test. I can see how much it's moving, so I'll know exactly when to pull it and how far it'll go. So a lot of that comes from experience rather than kind of saying, I'll be in the glory hole for 3 seconds, or I'll do this for 4 seconds. A lot of those basic kind of, I'm going to do this for X amount of times or things like that don't really work. You need to adjust it for exactly what it needs.
Like glass and stuff, and they were like, oh, well, now it makes you, like, I take cold damage now. Like, I hit, like, I take... I love that job. You can go ahead and make your post.
So now to stretch the cane, we're going to need another rod with some glass on the end. So my brother's making what we call a post. It's just a flat piece of glass that's on the tip of a pipe. And basically what we're going to do is once that cools down, I'll be able to take my hot white glass, stab it onto this side, which will be much colder here in a little while. You can see he's kind of just staying in the same spot and letting the glass cool down. And once it's cool enough, I'll be able to stick my hot glass on it, and we'll be able to start to stretch. So it's kind of a post that I can use as leverage to pull from.
All right, we can go down.
All right, so that went really well. I got a really good diameter on it, and I got a lot of length out of it as well. So now I'm going to break it up into smaller segments, and we'll actually start to break it down into some little, probably about 5-inch long lengths. We'll be able to take those, heat them back up again, and then roll them up on some clear glass. We'll pull it one more time, but this time we're going to twist it so we get these really long kind of striations and twists. There's lots of different ways you can pull cane, especially when you get into twisting it. The type that we're going to be making today is Zanfirico cane, which to my knowledge is basically just any kind of lines that are just twisted in almost a random kind of fashion. You can use more or less of them, but it's really just a basic kind of lines and striations and twists. There's lots of different types though, so this is one of the more basic types of twisty cane you can pull.
Been funky.
So we lay them out on this little rib plate, which just has these little ridges on it, and once they're on there, I'll start to heat them up in this little garage that I have right here. They'll heat up just a little bit. We'll take one big heat on it so they're nice and warm, and then I can roll it up on some clear glass. So here in a moment, we're going to get some clear glass out of the furnace again, and we'll make sure it's just the right size so we can roll it up nice and round, and all of those little canes will stick to the glass.
But Ranger IPA?
Yeah, it's like the 9.5%.
Yeah.
It's blackest.
Oh, you get like stouts and shit? I'm gonna go sit down.
Get it. If I drink beer, I'll drink like whatever is the most alcohol.
All right, I'm ready, Luke, whenever you are.
Okay.
Easy, Pete. That's too easy. Did it fall?
All right, so that went really well. We have all of our lines, and now I'm going to work on smoothing them out so that we have a nice smooth surface. There's no ridges or anything, and we'll start to shape it up so that we can go ahead and do another pull. So in the glass studio, whenever you get into making more complicated technical work, things can take quite a while. The piece we're making today, all in all, took about 3 hours to make. So we first had to pull the cane, and then we had to pull it again and twist it, and then we can actually get to beginning to making the piece. So up until now, even right now, we're still just kind of making the materials that we'll need to get the right design.
Can we pull? Stop. Stop. Stop turning. Okay, now we're good. And stop. Pull. All right, let's twist. Get stiff on your side. Good. All right, we can go down. So too.
All right, so that was great. We have a really cool kind of pattern and design on here. It's not super formulaic. It's kind of abstract, which is great because we're actually going to end up twisting these even more once they're on the blowpipe. But now we'll break it down again, and we finally have our materials so we can start to actually make our piece.
Down, roll it up.
It appears like shark heaven.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. This dude is we'll just do a roll up and then stuff into it, or make a cut.
All right, perfect. So we have our smaller segments, and here in just a moment, we're going to place them onto a little ceramic pastorelli plate right here, and then we're going to start to fuse them together. So the same way that my brother Luke took a big heat in the glory hole on the ribbed plate before we rolled it up, we're going to do the same thing here, where we're going to take these canes, start to slowly heat them up so that they're molten, and fuse them together so that they all turn into a nice plate. Now, while Luke's doing that, I'm going to make what we call a collar. So I'm going to get a small amount of glass on the tip of my blowpipe, and then I'm going to blow a bubble straight through it so we have a straight shot down the end of the pipe. There's no glass covering the hole. Then I'll be able to shape up that small bit of glass that has a hole on the tip into a nice round kind of shape. That's the perfect kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, circumference, so that I can roll up that plate, the canes that we have on the pastorelli, and it's a perfect kind of ring around my collar. So that's what we're looking to do. I need to make sure this is just the right shape and just the right size so that we can roll up those canes into a perfect little cylinder. The glass cools down pretty quickly, so I know I need to move pretty fast to be able to really shape this up before it starts to kind of chill out on me. So you really have to be good about moving to the right tools and working efficiently.
You got room?
Another big thing about glassblowing is knowing that you have to have good communication with your assistants and your partners. So Luke is doing a really good job of telling me how hot the glass is, and now that it's the right temperature and I'm also the right temperature, we can roll it up on the pipe.
Would you look at that?
All right, so that was great. Everything's going great so far. So I'm going to make sure there's no gaps in between any of my canes, and then we'll start to smooth out the surface once again so we get rid of all of those ridges.
Looking.
design issues.
Yeah, oh my
We all
god.
got those issues.
Yeah, come on. I'm like, dude, I'm getting married.
So now that everything's getting pretty smooth, we're going to have to do what we call a termination. So we're going to get rid of the glass that's on the tip of the pipe. Makes this kind of weird little shape at the end. This is called a cutoff is what they call it. But now that it's encapsulated, there's technically a bubble on the inside of my glass. So now everything's sealed and I can start to blow through the pipe to start to inflate it.
There you go. You can't show up on time, man.
Oh, yeah. Wait, did Will not show up on time?
No,
So the plan with this piece is we're going to end up turning this into a cup, which is known as a stuff cup. So before we do that, I'm going to need to spin it out a little bit more. You can see here we're twisting up all those lines again. And what I'm going to do is a process called merletto, where in a moment I'm going to go into one of our bronze molds right here. I'll blow as hard as I can, and it'll really distort the lines because they're going to get shot into all of those ridges. Then I'll twist it up one more time, which will add all of these distortions and kind of ridges, really, into our pattern. So here in just a moment, you'll be able to see all of these lines, which have gone from just twisties kind of to even more twists and different striations, and it really, really looks like a cool pattern.
I used to work with Andrew and Davey. But they like go Bear Creek Glass and they sell glass. They were like successful. That's like where all this equipment was coming from.
blow lightly. Off. I'll ask for air one more time.
So this is how this place got singular.
Yeah. You can blow lightly. Off. Okay.
All right, so we smoothed it out, blew it up a little bit, and you can kind of see all those lines right there. It's really hard to see when it's compressed like this, but a little bit later in the process, you'll be able to really see the design a lot better. So we're going to add our final layer of clear glass, and then we'll be able to start blowing this up to create that cup that I was talking about before.
Coming out.
So the idea with the stuff cup that I was talking about before is basically that we're going to take a second bubble that has a color on it, and we're going to stuff it into this cup that we're going to create. So this will kind of be like a cylindrical cup with like a round bottom, and we'll take another bubble that has a color on the outside of it and stuff it into it. So these lines are going to be the design that's on the outside, the exterior of our piece, while the inside is a nice strong color. So you can pick like a opaque color. I think today we're using that opaque orange I put in the other color box at the beginning of the process. But you could also do transparent. You can really do anything. Today I wanted to mess around with an opaque.
Travis.
Jessica works in Orange Beach, but she lives in Pensacola.
You can blow.
This tool, for those of you who don't watch the channel too often, is called our newspaper tool. So I can use it to kind of manipulate the bubble as my brother inflates it. It's basically 12 sheets of newspaper wrapped up and folded and soaked in water, and I can use it to basically just cool down the areas of the glass that I don't want to expand. So if I'm touching the tip, the back areas that are right behind my hand are the areas that are going to start to inflate. The water, the cool water that's on the pad, will slow down the expansion in the areas that I'm touching. So I'm basically just shaping the bubble from the outside.
Off. Look at that. Pretty.
Pretty.
So you gotta make
So now we're going to use that tool that I coated in beeswax a little earlier. These are called the jacks. So we're putting a small incision right off the tip of the pipe, and we're basically deciding where the top of the piece is going to be in the end. We're putting this little incision in so that eventually later in the process, it's nice and thin and it gets colder faster than the rest of the piece. So it'll want to break there. So we're also kind of deciding where we want to break it off from the pipe when we transfer it to a different pipe, which is a process that we're going to be getting to here in just a little while.
We're gonna blow lightly. On. Off.
Yeah, but your internet thing is doing so well.
Yeah, but not doing local sales is a mess.
So now we're going to begin that transfer I was talking about. My brother has what we call a punty with a small bit of glass on the tip. I'm going to tag it on to the center of the bottom of my piece, and this is a sculpture punty, so I'm actually going to put a little line in it here in a minute that we'll be able to break it off of later. It's more of a complicated type of punty. There are many different kinds of punties for transfers like this, but basically what we're going to do is I'll let that glass cool down for just a moment. I'll add a little bit of water to the area right where I want it to break. I'll give the pipe a little tap, and then it'll be transferred to the other pipe.
Ready? Going up.
Perfect. So that transfer went really well. And now all we have to do is open it up to the right diameter, and then we'll have a nice little cup.
Shield me. I'll paper it and then we'll start, you know, just somewhere to start from.
All right, so with that last move, we're basically done with our cup. You can kind of see those lines on there a little bit better right now. The camera doesn't pick up as much of the white lines as I wish that it did, but we're basically done with this. So now we're actually going to break it off of this pipe on that little line I put in on the sculpture punty, and my brother's going to transfer it into one of the color ovens that we preheated at the beginning of the process. That way it's nice and warm in there, and it'll be sitting there on a little cup so that I can then get ready with my other color to stuff into it. Therefore, a stuff cup like I was talking about before.
Just do a goblet.
So now that the stuff cup is made, we can actually begin to make the piece. That was the final little kind of piece of material that we needed, and now we're actually going to make the vase. So right about now, we're probably a little bit under 2 hours into the process. So we've just been making pieces for the last 2 hours almost, and now we're going to actually make the final product. So like I said before, glass blowing, especially this technical work, can take quite a while. So all in all, about 3 hours to make this piece. So right now we're setting up to do what we call a color overlay. I have a little bit of glass I got out of the furnace, and I'm going to put a small bubble in it right now, while my brother is reheating up that orange glass. I'll let this bubble cool down. Here it goes. It's starting to inflate right there. And once it's the right temperature, and my glass is cold, my brother's glass is hot, he'll shape it up to the right shape, and we're actually going to drop this orange right onto the top of my bubble, and I'll be able to spread it across it so that we get a nice even layer of orange glass.
That's not the truth. That's not what I said.
You literally said, you don't...
Bubble.
Perfect. So the glass is now attached to the end of my pipe, and obviously you can see that it's much hotter than my bubble is. So I'm going to use that while it's nice and hot and we have a big difference in temperature so that I can spread it across it without my bubble collapsing in.
SpongeBob's like the best one.
Legendary show.
Alright, so I'm basically done moving the color around, and I'm going to let this cool down a little bit, and then we'll stick it into the furnace and we'll get a new layer of clear glass. And this will actually be the last time that we get clear glass out of the furnace, because with this gather, I'm going to inflate it a small bit, and then we'll get ready to stuff it into that cup that we put into the color oven.
I was going to ask for you to get one. Thank you. It's very thoughtful of you. There's different ways to do it. People preheat a mold and then put it on it. Yeah, this is just a different way of doing it.
Damn, you don't get the full visual.
So it's almost to the right size. I'm going to shape it up just a little bit more, and then we'll get it to just the right temperature, and we'll be able to open up that door to the color oven, and I'll drop this inside of the cup and pick it up.
Off. All right, this looks good. All right, let's do it. It'll be thick.
All right, so that was awesome. This is actually the first time that I've tried this method. I've done it in different ways to like pull cane with it, stuff like that, but I've never actually made a piece out of it. So this was really exciting for me, and I'm really happy with how the end result came out. I love the process, and I really enjoyed making this.
Okay. Okay, that's good. That's good. Thank you. It's a good move.
So from here on out, we're basically just doing glass blowing, just some basic vessel making. So I'm going to try to smooth this out, make sure there's no bubbles that got sandwiched in there whenever I dipped it, and then we'll start to turn it into its final shape. I love using this marvering table. It's great for shaping the glass, but it also cools the glass down at a kind of alarming rate. So it's really good at freezing up certain sections that I don't want to inflate. So you can see I'm really rolling it on the tip because I want to start to inflate the back area of the piece more than I want the bubble to shoot down towards the tip.
Like Moe's or Chipotle. The what burger?
A royal burger.
The Royal Burger.
Royale with cheese. Royale with cheese.
You can blow lightly. All right, off. Just trying to get this thing to even out. It's.
Looks good.
I'm into it.
Chef's special that I like to get. That's awesome. It's basically all you can eat fruits. Here's my thing on it. $35, all you can eat is sake. I was gonna say,
You can blow hard. Off.
So someone told me a long time ago that, the glass always remembers. So anytime you touch it with a tool or manipulate it in any way using tools, it's going to leave a mark of some kind, right? So we use a lot of gravity as well. You'll notice that I'm really elongating it by just letting it kind of get longer and longer with gravity instead of using a tool.
Off. Yeah, I've heard a lot of girls have been watching.
So right now we're setting up to put in a jack line like we did whenever I made the stuff cup earlier, right? Where basically we're going to put in this small little incision and it'll determine where the top of the piece is. But I'm using this fluffy torch because I really want to get that back section hot enough so that I can get a really good incision with my jacks.
that's like Land of the Lost. That's what I'm thinking about. Now Will Ferrell. Yeah, yeah. Emma loves that one.
You want to blow, Luke?
Yeah.
Blow. Off. Yes, one last time. One more time. One more time. Yeah.
Oh, cool. 5 minutes later.
Can you blow?
Made me cry.
Yeah, dude. Off. No. right, Luke, give me some air. On. Off. We'll stretch it a little bit more. I might just go cylinder.
Looks good.
It does. I'm into it. Yeah, wow. Blow lightly. On. Off. All right, we're gonna put a bottom on it. We're just going cylinder.
So we have most of our length now, and so we're going to start to put the bottom on the piece. So I use the blades of my jacks to make sure that the walls are nice and straight while I blow through it, and then my brother's going to use one of these wooden paddles to start to establish the bottom.
Oh, we'll go again. Push. Off. Let me take a look. All right, push. Off.
So the bottom's nice and flat, and now it's time to go for one of those punty transfers, just like we did before. So my brother has a nice thick punty rod right here with some glass on the tip. I'm going to stab it onto the center, add a little bit of water where I want it to break, and we'll be off to the races. We'll have it flipped over on the new pipe.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
When you're making big work like this, you really want to work with somebody that you trust. And I love my brother. We've been working together for a few years now. And he's a fantastic artist. He's a better glass blower than I am. So I know that I can trust him to do the moves that I need him to do. He's one of the only people that I enjoy blowing glass with. I've got a few other people that I work with in the studio, but blowing glass with my brother is different than anyone else.
That's not that bad.
So this tool I'm about to use right now is called the Soffietta. So I'm going to start to blow inside the piece, and you'll see that the tip is starting to round out. So that move is really good for starting to inflate the piece from the inside.
Sorry.
So we're basically just making a large cylinder today, so the last thing we have to do is just open up the tip so that it's nice and flat. Today was a lot of practice on color application, so I've never done a stuff cup before. This was the first piece that I've ever made with a stuff cup, so I really wanted to practice going through the motions and just doing everything, and we made a shape that I knew that I could do well.
Go on. I'll paper it. Maxing it out. All right, Luke, can you go on?
All right, so we're basically done with our piece. You can really see those lines now. I love how it looks. It's kind of lacy. It looks great. But we're not exactly done yet. We have to break it off of the pipe, which can always be a kind of anxious moment. So I'm going to add a little bit of water right on the tip of the punty, right where I want it to break, and I'll be able to tap the pipe. It'll fall into my brother's Kevlar gloves, and we'll be able to move it into our annealing oven, and that way we'll be able to turn the oven off, and it'll slowly heat up or cool down over about 12 hours. So tomorrow morning we'll be able to come back in, and we'll be able to see what the piece actually looks like.
All right, last drop. All right, ready? We're gonna map it. Huh? Did it? No, it's fine. Look at that. Oh my God. Dude, thank you so much. Oh my God. Woo! That was awesome.
All right, and here's the final product. That orange really pops. I love this orange. It's one of my favorite colors to use. I make a lot of work with it. And the lines look amazing. So like I said before, it looks like lace or almost like, spiders' webs and stuff like that. So love how this piece came out. I'm over the moon. And this piece is available for purchase. You can find it on my Etsy page or my personal website. There's a link to it down in the description box below. So this was a really fun piece to make. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me make it as much as I enjoyed making it. Be safe out there. We'll catch you in the next one.